What's this about? What?
That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther. She couldn't do it.
Up for sound bites. This is awesome.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Anti-Religious Scripture Study. I am so sorry about the sound being muted for the song. I don't know what happened. I never mute that song, but for some reason it was muted. Anyway, welcome back. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So I'm sitting out here. Am I full screen? Can they see?
Yes, they can see.
Okay, cool. I'm sitting out here in my sukkah for Sukkot, which is in the midst of the 7th month, to remember dwelling in the wilderness. And, it's good to get out in nature and focus on the creation rather than the world and other such distractions from the Creator. So I just wanted to give a wide shot of the sukkah, and then, you can go ahead and bring my computer close, and you can change scenes, Karen, if you prefer. Unless I'm going to be a really big face. All right. So I'll read my disclaimer. And today is a good day for the disclaimer because there's some not so happy stuff in here. And then there's other good chunks of information here. So just Jack's disclaimer to the religious. If you believe it's wrong to study the scripture outside of your religion or denomination, if you believe your religious leaders or church fathers are incapable of having inherited anti-scriptural traditions of men, if you've already made up your mind about scripture, including the scripture shouldn't be studied at all, then this stream is not for you. To others, if you are open-minded to others' opinions, if you haven't made up your mind about scripture, if you've been turned off to religion but believe there's truth in scripture that may have been changed or hidden by religion, if you live according to scripture and like to dig in and discover more, then the stream is for you. We are looking at scripture in the original language using concordances or dictionaries for root words as well as context from a non-religion perspective. We will as well have life experience discussion. We are not here to argue with others about theology or doctrine by the traditions of men, including Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. We will be discussing the importance of origins and show how religions contradict the scriptures. There we go. So just to recap on what's going on right now, I'm going to go over to Leviticus 23, which is the culmination of all the Moedim, the appointed times of Yah. And the fall Moedim starts on 23, and it's easy to remember, chapter 23, verse 23, and then you scroll down to 33, and we're talking about Sukkot. Speak to the children of Israel on the 15th day of the 7th new moon is a festival, and that's Hag, as in, join, drink and spin and be merry and have a good old time. For 7 days to Yehovah. On the first day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. For 7 days, you bring an offering made by fire to Yehovah, but that was only done in the temple by the priest. On the 8th day shall be a set-apart gathering for you. You shall bring an offering made by fire to Yehovah. It is a closing festival. You do no servile work. These are the appointed times which you proclaim as set-apart gatherings, to bring an offering made by fire to Yehovah, an sundering offering, grain offering, slaughter, and drink offerings, as commanded for every day besides the Sabbaths of Yehovah, besides your gifts, besides your vows, besides your voluntary offerings which you give to Yehovah. On the 15th day of the 7th new moon, you gather in the fruit of the land, celebrate the Yehovah for 7 days. The first day is a rest, the 8th day is a rest. And there's some more in detail on that, but we'll jump off that and back to where we're at. We're in Deuteronomy 17. So if you're ready and you're in the new scene where they can see everything.
Yes.
Okay. Let me hold on. I'm sorry. I got to move my. Okay, now I can see. Feel free.
All right. Do not slaughter to Yehovah your Elohim a bull or sheep which has any blemish, any evil matter, for that is an abomination to Yehovah your Elohim.
Okay, so in other words, you don't bring your crap animal, right? Like I'm not trying to be vulgar or whatever, but it's like you want to bring your best if it's an offering to Yehovah, right? That's the gist of it. The other thing is, typically I correct the slaughter to sacrifice, because like sometimes it says like sacrifice a grain offering and you don't slaughter grain. So that's, in this case, slaughter makes sense, but in the most part, it's just a sacrifice period. All right, 17:2.
When there is found in your midst, in any of your cities, which Yehovah your Elohim is giving you, a man or a woman who does what is evil in the eyes of Yehovah your Elohim in transgressing his covenant, and has gone...
Okay. Go ahead.
And has gone and served other mighty ones, and bowed down to them, or to the sun, or to the moon, or to any of the host of the heavens which I have not commanded.
All right. So a few things in here. Number one, it's the midst of the gates, not the midst of the cities. The scriptures version, I think, did a bad job at translating that word, because gates is the proper word. The reason being is because the gates, and I'll blow up the definition here. The gate is where they do the opening of the mines and the opening of the city. Okay, so the men of well, let's just say philosophy, but it would be different than philosophy. More like contemplate things of Torah, right? In this case, they would meet at the gate. So if you have somebody at the gate that's spewing some nonsense and it's not about Torah, then it's a big problem, because they're trying to cause dissension, a new philosophy that's outside of the Torah purview, right? And then it says that individual is transgressing his covenant. Why? Because he's made a covenant. He has said, I belong to Yehovah. I will keep the Torah and teach the Torah. And if he starts doing this other thing where he's worshiping the lights in the sky rather than worshiping the creator of the lights in the sky, then it becomes problematic. All right. Mm-hmm. This is verse 4.
And it has been made known to you, and you have heard and have searched diligently. Then see if true the matter is confirmed that such an abomination has been done in Israel.
Okay, so the abomination is the same as the abomination of you don't touch a dead animal, you don't touch, pig, shellfish, all that stuff, all that kind of, it's the most disgusting thing. So if he's supposed to be a trusted advisor, a trusted teacher of the Torah, and then he flips the script, that's an abomination. That's, what do they call it? Blasphemy today, right? So it's like completely going against Yah in the group of men representing Yah. All right, 5.
Then you shall bring out to your gates that man or woman who has done this evil matter, and you shall stone to death that man or woman with stones.
So again, I wanted to point out that they are inclusive. They include women, right? So you have the wise ones meeting at the gate. Some of them are women, right? And then if one of the women are causing dissension because they're coming up with something that's against Torah, then you should bring her out and stone her as well. It doesn't matter if it's man or woman. It's all inclusive. That's not sexist.
At the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall he that is to die be put to death. He is not put to death by the mouth of one witness.
Okay, does this sound familiar at all? Have you ever heard this before?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a concept not new to the New Testament. Okay, the verse that people often quote about 1 or 2 witnesses, or 2 or more witnesses, or whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. These are excerpts from Torah. You don't ever get away with making claim, I saw so and so do such and such. Okay, where's another witness, right? We can't go by one man's testimony because you could just have a grudge against this person and want to put him out. So we're talking about in the context here. We're talking about a group of men and women, because we see that there. We see a group of I'll say individuals. That way it sounds better. We have a group of individuals who are reasoning and philosophizing about the Torah. And one of them is like, no, I think we should worship the lights in the sky because they're more visible. I think that's the main focus of that kind of thing. Even though the lights in the sky are not very physical, they're kind of supernatural. But anyway, the context here is, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, that if they're causing dissension, because we're talking about when people first come into the city. So you could be a stranger who has heard about, oh, there's something going on with these Hebrews, that they're like having these miraculous experiences, connecting with the Creator, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to go check that out, right? This is the, what do you call it? Sojourners, right? Mm-hmm. So when the sojourners come into town, this is the first place they're going to start getting information. That's why they gathered at the gates to reason with one another. And of course, you're going to have 2 or more witnesses there because it's a group of people, All right.
The hand of the witnesses shall be first against him to put him to death, and the hand of all the people last. So you shall purge the evil from your midst.
Okay.
When any matter arises which is too hard for you to judge, between blood and blood, between plea and plea, or between stroke and stroke, matters of strife within your gates, then you shall rise and go up to the place which Jehovah your Elohim chooses.
Right. So stroke and stroke is when you're making decrees, contracts, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the place where Jehovah your Elohim chooses would be the tabernacle or later the temple. Mm-hmm. All right.
And shall come to the priests, the Levites, and to the judge who is in those days, and shall inquire, and they shall declare to you the word of right ruling. Okay, so we've talked about this a couple times where it's kind of like if you're local, you have a group of 10, 15 men, and then a group of 50, a group of 100, one in charge of this group and a bigger group and a bigger group, not in charge, but responsible for. Mm. And then that individual, that judge of that area needs to go with you to the tabernacle and try to, hash the reasoning out, right? It's like, you can't just go by, well, I feel this and I feel that. No, you're actually going to have to bring evidence and lay it out. And you shall do according to the word which they declare to you from that place which Jehovah chooses, and you shall guard to do according to all that they instruct you.
Makes sense.
Do according to the Torah in which they teach you, according to the right ruling which they say to you. You do not turn to the right or to the left from the word which they declare to you.
So again, this is also a disclaimer. You have to do according to the Torah and according to right ruling. So if they're not doing the ruling according to Torah, and they're not doing what you think is the right ruling, then you can have it hashed out with other Levites until, you think that it's lining up with Torah. If you can bring up a good argument with Torah and they can't argue against it, then, move on. Next judgment.
And the man who acts arrogantly so as not to listen to the priest who stands to serve there before Jehovah your Elohim, or to the judge, that man shall die. So you shall purge evil from Israel.
Yeah, you don't have to be here. But if you're going to live by these rules, you're going to live by these rules, you're going to die by these rules.
And let all the people hear and fear and no longer do arrogantly.
Excuse me, sorry. All the people hear. I don't know why it says fear. They do see. They hear and they see. Let all the people hear and see and no longer act arrogantly. I don't know why they went with fear. Let me just look here. Yare. Okay, so with the prefix of he or they, and then see, he will see. That's different than the other one that fear means to like be thrown back, right? Like whoa or this is more like, you see, you acknowledge, you recognize. All right.
When
14.
when you come to the land which Jehovah your Elohim is giving you, and shall possess it, and shall dwell in it, and you shall say, let me set a sovereign over me like all the nations that are around me.
Okay, so this is a prophecy. He says at some point you guys are going to want a human being over you. But when it happens, he's like, are you sure you want a human being over you? You shouldn't have a human being over you. But if you're going to have a human being over you, this is how you choose the human being over you. And he even warns, when the first time they actually make a decision to have a king, he says, okay, but he's going to take all your land. He's going to take your money. He's going to take your women. He's going to take your animals. And they're like, yeah, we want one of those. Yeah, we want a king. Yeah. People are crazy. All right, 15.
You shall certainly set a sovereign over you, whom Jehovah your Elohim shall choose. Set a sovereign over you from among your brothers. You are not allowed to set a foreigner over you who is not your brother. That's
Okay,
interesting right there.
Yeah. So here's another thing. You don't hire foreigners to help judge the laws of the land that's supposed to be based on Torah. Okay, so this set a sovereign over you whom Jehovah your Elohim shall choose. So what had happened when they first chose a king, they chose the man who was biggest. He was head and shoulders above everybody else. This is King Saul. And that's not the one that Yah chose. Yah chose David, right? Which David became one of the greatest kings ever, right? So people are like, they're not looking at someone who is after right ruling. They're looking at who is good enough for war, right? They want the biggest, baddest dude in charge to be their king.
Mm-hmm.
And the creator's like, oh, no. I want this guy, the guy that's fair skinned and he's kind of chill, like hanging out with lambs, but he'll kill a bear or a lion if he has to. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, 16.
Only he is not to increase horses for himself, nor cause people to return to Mitzrayim to increase horses. For Jehovah has said to you, do not return that way again.
Okay, so previous verses says you don't go back to Mitzrayim. And the thing about horses is they were the engines of war. If you wanted to go to war, you don't want to go to war on a camel. I mean, they're kind of fast, but not as fast as horses,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they would pull chariots, right? These are battle animals, horses. That's why you're not supposed to like go increase, like, because then you might get the idea, oh, we can expand, we can take over,
Mm-hmm.
17.
And he is not to increase wives for himself, lest his heart turn away, nor is he to greatly increase silver and gold for himself.
Okay, so King Solomon, the alleged wisest king of all, he may have started wise, but then when he brought in a bunch of wives from a whole bunch of different locations, a whole bunch of different belief backgrounds where they were putting up idols of other deities inside the temple of Yah, it did not go well for him.
And it shall be, when he sits on the throne of his reign, that he shall write for himself a copy of this Torah in a book, from the one before the priests, the Levites.
And of course, a book is a sefer, not a bound book, right? But a scroll. So that's you're supposed to write, if you're the king, you should write your own copy of the Torah and understand it and live by it.
And it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, so that he learns to fear Jehovah, his Elohim, and guard all the words of this Torah and these laws to do them.
See, this is not actually fear. Again, this is to see. He sees, he acknowledges. But yeah, it could go either way. It could be to be thrown back or to be acknowledging. All right.
So that his heart is not lifted up above his brothers, and so as not to turn aside from the command right or left, so that he prolongs his days in his reign, he and his children in the midst of Israel.
All right, there we go. So a king is not to do his own thing. That's basically what it's talking about, right? Only do the will of Yah. So, as soon as you start getting your own selfish desires in there, that's when everything gets corrupt. And, eventually it turned out to Israel being taken into captivity and then coming back and then getting put back in. And, it's a mess. But anyway, yeah, like I said, it's a short chapter today, but I definitely needed to get a stream in. It's been a long while, and sorry about that. Like last Shabbat was not the easiest day because we had Yom HaKippurim, the day of fasting and self-inspection and everything else like that. And I was up for, I think it was for 37 hours before I laid down for 3 hours, and then I was back up for the rest of the block of the 24 for Yom HaKippurim. So I didn't see me being able to, make it functional for doing a stream. And the week prior, Karen had other stuff that she had to do, family matters. So
yes,
glad to be back, and I will be back next week, and we are halfway through.
No, next week is going to be Flattoberfest.
Oh, I'll be there. Karen won't. No, I'm just kidding. You're right. Next week's Flattoberfest. Forget flat next week. Just never mind. I said anything. I didn't say nothing. Next week is Flattoberfest. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I will be I find it funny, but I will be a gatekeeper.
That's right.
Saturday night. So, we're going to rotate between, Jonathan and Alex and Skylar. Skylar, not Skylar, Gabriel. Skylar's my older son who will not be there. So, but Gabriel.
Yes.
So, can't wait. Can't wait to hang with everybody. So,
yeah, it's
Shabbat
gonna
Shalom,
be awesome.
y'all.
Yes, thank you for joining us for another episode of Anti-Religious Scriptures Study, and we hope to see as many of you as possible at Flattoberfest 2024, which is next weekend. It is the final Flattoberfest.
And the earth is still flat.
And the earth is still flat. All right. Much love, everybody. Shabbat
Shabbat Shalom.